Hey, hello everyone, welcome back. So in our today's tutorial, I will show you how to read the context from your contact list from your mobile phone in Android Kotlin. So to do so, I had created an here application. I'll show you demonstration. So this is the application. Here in this application, we will display all the context that we had stored into our internal memory of your phone, right? All the context. So let's check it out. First of all, what are the contexts that we had stored? So if you go into our contacts, here I am having four contacts, right? This is YouTube channel and native stack and Android developer and AKD developer. Let's add a new contact just to show you the demonstration. Let's give it name as subscriber, right? And let's save the phone number as 456726789, right? Let's save it. Now as you can see, our fifth contract has been added here, right? Subscriber. Let's see if it is has been displayed into our contacts app or not, right? Now as you can see, the fifth contact has been added to our application, right? Subscriber. So in this way, this type of application we are going to create in our today's tutorial. If you are worrying about the scroll view and just that lack of stuff, that also I will show you in today's tutorial, right? So hope you like this tutorial and keep watching. So head back to Android Studio, and as you can see here, I had created an empty Kotlin project and I had given it name as read context. Let's change the file structure of our project to project, and then in app folder, and then source directory, main directory, and here you can see in Java directory we are having our package name folder, and then our main activity, which means main Kotlin file. And then if we go in resources, in layout file we are having our XML layout, right? By default here text field has been created, and if we go down here we are having our manifest file. So in order to display the context, first we want to retrieve our context from our system, right? From our mobile phone, or from as we are using emulator, we need to read all the context from our emulator. Here in my emulator, I had created some random contacts. I am having four contacts. These are my contacts with the specified contact number, right? So I want to read all of my contacts from this contact list. So in order to do that, we need an list view, right? You can also use recycler view, but I'm using a list view to display all my contacts, right? So I'm giving it width as match parent and also height as match parent, right? Let's provide it an ID so that we can use it in our main Kotlin file. I will give it as list view, right? So we had created list view where we will print our all the contacts, right? So in order to access contacts from our mobile phone, we need to allow the permission. We need to give the permission to our Android app, right? So in order to do that, go to our manifest file and here, add here user permission, and then here we need to add permission of read contacts. So after adding this permission, now our app is capable to access the contacts, saved contacts from our mobile phone, right? So our layout file is ready. Now go to our main file. Now here I will create a function and I will give it a name as read, right? Let's create a function out of our onCreate method function read, and then here I will create a variable. I will give it name as cursor, which is type of cursor, and equals to, we will use a content resolver in order to read the saved context, right? So content resolver, and we will pass here query. Here we need to pass first parameter is URI of our context, right? So to get the URI of our context, we need to use contact contract, right? Contacts contract, contacts contract, dot common data kind dot, and we need to go to our phone, right? So phone dot, and here we will pass context URI, right? This is URI of our context, saved context, right? So comma, and second parameter is array of string, right? So here currently we are not having any array of string, right? So we will pass it as null, and then third parameter we need to pass selection string. Also we'll pass it as null, and then again null, and last parameter is let's pass it as null. Now we need to start this cursor, right? So it will start from starting of our context, and it will read all the context. So we will use start managing cursor method, and then we will pass here the object of our cursor, right? Now our application is ready to read the context. Now we need to pass all those contexts to our list view, right? So we need an adapter, right? So let's create an adapter. So I'll give it name as simple, because it is type of simple cursor adapter, right? So I'm giving it name as simple, and then we'll do simple cursor adapter, and in round brackets we need to pass all the context that we had read from our context list, right? So first of all we will pass context, and then we will pass we need to store all the context that we had read from here, right? Cursor has read all the context, and we need to store into something, right? So we will create here a variable, and I will give it name as from, and which is type of array, and array of, right? So I need to store all this context which is read by cursor into this array, right? So I will store it like by using context contract, right? That variable we had passed dot common data kinds dot phone dot first we will display the display name. We will store the name, right, in array, and second we will store the phone ID, right, name, and then we need to store the phone ID, right? We also store the phone number of our, right, this. So contact contracts dot common data kinds dot phone dot number, and then now third parameter we will store as phone ID, right? That ID of that contact, right? So again we need to pass the same parameters. So I'll just copy this part of code, and I'll paste it here, and I will change here from phone to underscore ID. Now in from array we have stored the three parameters, that is display name, phone number, and third one is ID of our contact, right? So we need to pass it here, but before that we need one more array in which we need to store the IDs of our XML components, in which we will display all three parameters, all these parameters, right? So we need to store those components. So I will create here one more array which is type of integer array, right? Integer array of, and then I will use the id of my components of list view dot id dot text one. In text one we will display the display name of our contact, right? And in second we will pass as android dot dot id dot text 2. In text 2 we will display the contact number, right? This one, and we don't need to print the id, but if you want you can do that. Now you were thinking how I got this text1 and text2 if I had created only the list view in my xml file. So here you can see in list view we are having two parameters, item 1 and sub item 1, right? This is by default parameters which are available in list view. So by default the system has given them an id, that this above parameter is id is text1, and this is text2, right? Same has been followed to each of the item in this list view. So those IDs I had used here, and on this ID this all parameters will be displayed, right? So now we need to pass with this both the parameters in this adapter, right? So this comma, and we need to pass in which type of list we need to display all this context, right? So android dot r dot layout dot simple list item 2, I am using this, right? And comma, now we need to pass the all the parameters, right? Array of parameters. First we will pass the cursor object, of type cursor that we have created above, and then comma, I will pass the array of context that is I stored into from variable, and then I want to print it to some UI components, right? So I'll pass the array of that is in the array, that is 2. Now, as you can see, now I think our program is ready. Let's revise what we had did in this tutorial. Using cursor object, we had read all the context from our contact list, and then we had created two arrays. In first array, I had stored all display name and phone number and IDs of my contacts, and in second array, I had stored the IDs of my UI components in which I want to display the all my contacts, right? And then finally, I had created the adapter in which I had passed the context and in which type of list I want to display, and then I had passed the object of cursor and both the arrays. Now we left the final step that we need to allow this adapter to get attached to our list view, right? So I'll pass the object of my list view that I have created in XML file list view.adapter equals to an object of my adapter, that is simple, right? So now I think our program is ready to run. Let's run the program and see if it runs properly or not as per our wishes. Uh, let's run the program throughout our emulator. Click on OK. So as you can see, our application is up and running, but it is showing some error, right? Let's check it out. What error it is showing? It is showing us the error that permission has been denied. So in order to access the context that has been stored into our mobile phone memory, right, personal internal memory, so in order to access those components elements which has been stored into our internal memory, we need to allow the permission to access. Of course, we had access allowed the permission, we had given the permission inside our manifest file, but still our application needs some permission through our device, right? So go to this emulator and go to setting. From here we need to allow the permission that we does in normally while installed via our application, that time we are doing. But if you are using our emulator, we need to allow here. So go to apps and notification, and then from here we need to select our app, right? This is our application read context. Click on that application, and then we need to go into permission sections. Go to permissions section, and then here we can allow the permission to access the context, right? Now hope our application will run fine on our emulator. So as you can see, my all the context has been displayed on my in my application, right? Here I had displayed 4 contacts, and if I go into my contact section, here I am having this contact section. Here I am in 4 contacts. This all the context has been displayed into my application, right? Right. Here I am having only limited context, that is 4 contacts. But if you are having n number of contacts here, then there is not any worry. Don't you worry, because if the context increases by the number at that time, the scroll view has automatically added to our application, right? Which means you can scroll up and down to see all the contacts of your application, right? So in this way, you can read the context from your Android mobile phone, smartphone, from the internal memory. So hope you like this tutorial, and thanks for watching.